Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Traders Mindchat show. If you've ever taken a trade and then later thought, why did I do that? Or if you've strung together a few great weeks only to give it all back, or maybe you've wondered, I'm doing all this work, so why aren't the results consistent? If any of that struck a chord, then this one's for you. Today, we're diving into the three silent leaks I see ruin so many part time traders and how to fix those things without having to start from scratch. If you want to follow along, I just put together this free tool called the Trading System Health Checklist. It's just takes 2 minutes to complete, and it's a 9 point checklist that shows you where your system might be leaking profits and how to tighten it up. You could grab that over on marawealth.com. Put the link into the chat there. Or depending on where you're watching this, you could just click the link in my bio. So before we jump into those three silent leaks, let me share with you a brief personal story here. So I had all of the books, right? There's a few of my favorites back there on the shelf. I had the books, but I had no structure. I used to think that my problem was all about discipline. So I started to read guys like David Goggins. I started to read guys like Jocko Willink. Went down the rabbit hole with other people like Robin Sharma, Tony Robbins, Brandon Burchard. So many people trying to figure out, well, is discipline my problem? Is mindset my problem? If I just followed my rules a little bit better, then maybe I'd get the results that I wanted. And I had the right rules, or at least so I thought, because, well, I read the great books, right? I read How to Make Money in Stocks, and I thought that that would be enough. I started to run my own screens in MarketSmith. I was verifying RS ratings. I was reading Investors Business Daily every day. I was watching the bases, trying to identify leaders, going through the sector's leaders lists, all that stuff. I actually remember one trade early on when I had first joined the IBD meetup. This one trade was an Apple. It broke out. It shot up about 7%. And of course, I was doing the little happy dance. And then all of a sudden, it pulled back, and it pulled back hard right in the middle of the day. I remember that freaking me the heck out. And I remember selling a good chunk of it right in the middle of the day. And then, of course, by the close, it had shot back up, and there I was buying it right back. I wasn't really trading any kind of a plan. I mean, I had a trading plan, right? Enter here, stop loss there, some profit targets, but I wasn't really trading that plan. I was more so reacting to price. Have you had that experience? If so, go ahead and type into the chat. Say me too. I wasn't trading a plan. I realized that even though I had planned that one in particular trade, I didn't really have a system. Sure, I was doing what I thought was in the book, but I hadn't internalized that system. I had pieces, I had ideas. I even had a few habits that maybe some of them I was aware of, some of them not, but nothing to really anchor me under pressure, especially when middle of the day you log into the account and you see, uh-oh, all of a sudden those profits that I had are gone. So it was really that point that was the turning point when things started to change. What I noticed was that it wasn't just a technical problem for me, it was more of an operational problem. And that's where I started to realize, and this took a while too. This is where I started to realize that trading needs to be run like a business, and businesses need systems. Even now, right? Even now, after 25 years plus of trading, even after writing some of my own books, even now, if I'm not intentional, I can still fall back into those old habits where I'll be second guessing in the middle of the day, skipping reviews, rushing entries, right? Even after all this, I can still find myself falling into old habits. And that's why I've part of what's been super helpful to me, and hopefully part of what I share with you today is creating some of those intentional habits. So let's get into these three most common system leaks. So, number one, right? You might have guessed this one, no written business plan. A lot of traders have strategies. A lot of the traders that I meet here on YouTube, over on X, depending on where you're watching. I think that we've got somebody watching over on Twitch as well. Um, all over the place, Instagram. Most traders have strategies. Most traders have watched some videos. Most traders have cracked open a few books. Some have even taken a few courses or even signed up for mentorship and coaching, and all those things are great. They have strategies. Very few, even after going through all that work, even after spending years at this, very few have written business plans. But without a written business plan, we're really improvising. And that's a hard truth that, like I mentioned earlier, that's something that I learned the hard way. Because when push comes to shove, when we're in the middle of a trade and we're trying to figure things out, and the rules that we have aren't written down, and if they're not really thought through, do they match the goals that we have? Do they match the way that we're able to execute and execute consistently? Then that's when we start to run into problems. A great example of this, I'll give you another personal story. When I started to first draft of my business plan, wrote out how I would execute. I wanted to start to leverage a little bit more, right? Because at that point, I'm still trading part time, and I'm hoping that I'm able to grow my account fast to get me out of the day job. So I started to look at intraday options and using that for additional leverage. And I thought that I knew something about risk management and position sizing. So I put that part into the plan, and it started to work, right? There were trades that I was able to see intraday where if I had bought shares, I'd be up significantly using multi-time frame analysis, getting very low risk entries, higher potential reward, even just on the intraday action. And then it dawned on me that if I started to trade options, buying calls that were either at the money or just outside of the money that would expire, sometimes within a week or two, sometimes a little bit more. It dawned on me that, wow, I could get even more leverage with this and really cap my downside. And I thought that that's amazing, right? And that started to work. It started to work very well for a little while until the boss called. Right? And you guys know when the boss calls, you've got to answer the phone. And when you get called into a meeting and you're placing a trade, in the middle of the day that didn't account for an impromptu meeting with the boss, what do? Well, I learned the very hard way that it's important to have that what are you going to do part figured out beforehand, because I just kind of froze and I said, okay, met with the boss, left the trade open, and then all of a sudden, being up a few grand turned down to being down a few hundred, right? It could have been worse, but it was very painful to see, at that time, close to a week's pay vanish out the window. So, having those things figured out in your business plan and actually written out, how am I going to execute, and planning for your worst case scenarios, those things are very important. Here's a few other things that you might want to throw inside your business plan: what you're going to trade, right? So, might seem obvious, but are you trading stocks? Are you trading crypto? Are you trading forex or futures or something else? If we don't define what it is that we're trading, then we could fall into shiny object syndrome. So it's very important to figure out what it is that you're going to trade. When you're going to trade, that would have helped me out a whole lot. Right now, I trade pretty much exclusively after hours, or I at least set up all my plans after hours. And then part of how I go and I execute is to set up buy stop limit orders and to set up what's called OCO orders. One cancels the other, where I'll set the whole thing up, and if, say, a trade triggers, right? A trade triggered earlier today in CPRX. It's a biotech stock. Trade triggers. Then all of a sudden, that triggers, and my first scale out order is placed, as well as my stop loss is placed, and I don't need to sit there and babysit the trade. I'm able to sit here and talk to you guys. I'm able to coach people, work on content, all that stuff. That's the kind of style that works for me. And I found out that that's the kind of style by going through these types of exercises. Um, how will you position size? That too might seem like a fairly simple thing, but it's a very important part of our systems. We need to know how we're going to position size. We need to be able to position size based on our objectives. We all have different objectives. If, say, you're somebody, a lot of you that listen to me are also fans of Mark Minervini, are also fans of Trader Lion, and many of you might be interested in things like the US Investing Championship. Well, if your objective is to win a contest, your position sizing strategy might be very different than somebody that's learning how to do this and to trade part-time, to grow an account steadily. Very different objectives. So figuring out your position sizing strategy, does it map to the goal that you have? Right? Just a few of them there. Here's one more. How and when you're going to review results. That's something that tends to be one of those things that we know we should do, but if we're not very intentional about it, I'm guilty as well, doesn't get done. So for me, it's one of those things that has to be a an actual time block on my calendar. Otherwise, days will go by, weeks will go by, and then it's like, oh yeah, I was supposed to do a monthly review, and whoops. So being intentional. And there's a lot of other things that could go into a business plan too. Well, we don't have time to discuss everything here. If you're interested, I did write a new ebook about that. It's called the Trading Success Blueprint. That one you could get over on marrowwealth.com as well. And I will put the direct link into the chat here. marrowwealth.com/blueprint. All right. So let's talk about leak number 2. And again, if any of these leaks resonate with you, go ahead, type in the chat and just say that, yeah, leak one, raise your hand or type in a yes. Because for me, yeah, each one of these apply and have applied at different and varying points along my trading journey. And pretty much every day, I've got to keep all these at bay through intentionality. All right, now on to number two, leak number two. No market environment awareness. If you're not aware of the current market environment, you'll be leaking profits. And that's true no matter what it is that you're trading: stocks, forex, crypto, gold, commodities, whatever it is. We need to have a market awareness. Now, the type of market awareness might be a little bit different depending on what it is that you're trading, but we having a market awareness is important. If you have a setup that works beautifully in one type of market environment and totally flops in another, that's not your setup that's failing, it's the context that's failing. Every single system has an ideal environment. Again, so for those of you that are following me, most of you have been following me for a little while, but for those of you that are new, I like to trade growth stocks and I like to trade momentum stocks. If you're familiar with William O'Neill, Mark Minervini, the whole Trader Lion crew, all those people love to trade stocks that are in, well, what's called a stage two uptrend, where prices are moving higher. They're above their 50-day moving average. They're above their 200-day moving average. Both of those moving averages are turned up. That's generally where most of the money is made and more of the easier money is made. That's what works best for my style. Now, if I'm going and I'm trying to trade breakouts and I don't adjust anything tactically when we're in a bear market like we were earlier in the year, but I'm just trying to trade the same setups, maybe I spot something, maybe I don't have a way to filter of, is this a quality trade or not? But I'm just taking anything that shows up. If any old setup, say a flat base cup with handle, stuff like that. Those are chart patterns. If those just show up and I start trading them in the wrong market environment, I'm gonna get slammed. I'm gonna blow up. Understanding the market environment that you're in is very, very important. If you don't know what kind of market your system thrives in, you'll either end up over trading or you're going to get chopped to pieces. It's really one of the fastest ways that in working with other traders that we've been able to help them turn around inconsistent results. And again, it's true not just for stocks, but there's been plenty of people on Instagram. So many people on Instagram reach out to me and DM me, and I have wonderful conversations with these people. Many of them actually trade forex, and one of the people that I've been talking to most recently, he mentioned to me that when he tends to get chopped up, it's when he's in these non-trending market environments. So one of the best ways that we could start to have more consistent results is to start to figure out when we should be trading and maybe when we should not be trading. It's not that the system itself is broken, it's when should we apply that system? Hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's talk about leak number three. Leak number three is having no structured review process. This one is, well, this one is actually kind of sneaky. Traders think that they're reviewing because they're looking at a chart, or maybe they're looking at some journal notes, but real review means tracking statistics, It means tracking things like win or loss metrics, setup performance, decision quality, your emotional state when you're placing trades or throughout trades, maybe even after you've closed a trade. Those are the kinds of things that when you go back and you review and you're doing your post analysis, those are the types of things that can give you more of those aha moments. And it's those aha moments that can be transformative, but they're only transformative if we have a structured review process. Because if we don't, then those transformative events don't happen. We need to be doing structured reviews. We need to be doing those consistently, whether it's weekly or monthly. That's how you go from hoping to honing when you have that process. Hoping that it works to honing in on your process. Most breakthroughs come from better review, not more effort. That's funny too, because one of the things that I talk about in the Trading Mind Wheel book, I believe I also mentioned this in the Mara Mindshift Guide too. Well, one of the people that I had coached, uh, this guy was a bodybuilder, and one of the things that he kept on thinking was that the more effort that he put in, the better his results would be. And so the moment that things would start to get easy in trading, that's when he would start to blow up, right? Because things were getting a little bit too easy. But it wasn't the effort that was the problem. It was putting in the effort and then reaping the reward versus putting in more effort and, well, let me try to lift a heavier weight, right? Because one of the things when you're a bodybuilder, you start to lift heavier and then it's time to stack on some more weight and then you lift heavier again. In trading, once we have our systems dialed in, it could start to get easy if we follow our process. And maybe that's part of it too. Following the process. And the process, part of the process is having what we mentioned earlier, that business plan that outlines not just what we're going to trade, but when we're going to trade, when we're going to do the review process. Sometimes the hardest thing in trading is following the process because oftentimes, and if you've had success, you know this, oftentimes in trading, a lot of it is sitting on your hands and waiting. Hey, tell me if that's the truth. So I also want to point out this. I didn't learn any of these lessons that I'm sharing with you today. I didn't learn any of them from one big win. All this stuff came from years and years of trial, error, and lots and lots and lots of reflection. So if you're somebody that's been struggling for a while, you're definitely not alone. If any of these leaks sound familiar, you're definitely not alone. These are the same gaps I've seen again and again in coaching part-time traders for years now. That's what led me to put together this trading system checklist that we mentioned earlier. This is something that I wish that I had way back when I first was starting out and struggling. And the reason why is because it helps to highlight so many things that if I were to just be able to go through this checklist back then and say, do I have this? Is it working? Does it need review? Or is it missing altogether? Then that would have saved me a ton of time and effort. So if you want to go grab this, it's for free and it's over on mindchat.com. Just go ahead and click the link in the chat or the link in the bio. In just 2 minutes, it'll help you figure out exactly where you stand and what you need to work on first. So let me know in the comments from what we've discussed so far. What's one part of your trading system that you think could use some review right now? I'll jump in and reply if I'm able to help you guys. But go ahead and put into the comments what's one part of your trading system that you think needs some review right now. Also, if you have any other questions trading related or otherwise too, we could open it up to open Q&A now at this point. Yeah, I just glanced at the clock. I didn't realize, well, what time it was. Well, time really flies when you're having fun here. So let's see. Well, what questions do you guys have? No questions. Quiet. All right. Well, then, if that's the case, here's what I want to leave you with. Here we go. Marco says patience. Patience is something. Yeah, patience is something that I think we all need more of, right? Myself included. Here's one of the pervasive questions that you know, that always struck me when it would come to being patient, or either with a trade, with a trading system, is how do I know if I'm being patient with the wrong strategy or with the wrong trade? Almost like if I'm trying to see the if I'm trying to be the if I'm trying to see the sunrise, tongue tied there, see the sunrise, but I'm facing west. Doesn't matter how patient I am, I'm never going to see the sunrise. So what do you do in that? One way that I think that we could get out of that conundrum of knowing, oh, do we have the right system, the right strategy? Part of it comes from talking about it with other people that have walked the path. That's one of the things that helped me earlier on when I first found the New York City Investors Business Daily meetup. It took me from having just read and studied a book on my own to being able to talk about it with other people and starting to get different perspectives, some good, well, some very well-intentioned people, and then I might have done some things that, to their credit, probably my own misinterpretation of things back then. But it's also why I started this channel. It's also why I started a coaching service. Was to be able to give people a way where they could talk things out with somebody there that's walked the path, because it's really in doing that that if you're being patient with the right things, being patient with something that will yield a result if you continue to be patient with it, or if there's maybe a tweak or two that needs to be made with a particular trade or system or style. And that's a big part of what I do and why I do it. So patience, very, very important. Thank you for that, Marcos. Okay, so here's what I want to leave you with today. Confidence does not come from winning trades, at least not entirely from winning trades. It ultimately comes from structure, from knowing that even on your worst day, your system will still hold you, that you'll still be able to execute your system and execute your system well. That's what gives you confidence. That's what will allow you to put the phone down and go for a walk in the park, or to go away on vacation, or to go into that meeting. If you're following your system and you know that it works on your worst day, then that's what's going to give you confidence. It's what lets you trade with conviction and grow with clarity. So I want to say thank you all for joining me today. And until next time, keep building your edge. One belief, one trade, one breakthrough at a time. I'll talk to you all next week. Take care. Much love. And as always, God bless.
Hey, thanks so much for sticking around to the end. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button down below and become a part of the Mara Wealth community. And make sure that you check out some of the other videos on the channel. They're exactly what you need to see. And leave a comment down below. I read all of them. Leave a comment.